The XRP rich list. Are you top 1%? Maybe top 5%? If XRP reaches $25, $100, $500, how much money would you actually have? I'm gonna break it all down for you guys. This is so much fun. We also have a ton of updates around the crypto space with XRP. Let's just jump right into this. So All In Crypto posted this. Where are you on this list? You don't need to answer down below, but just take a look here. If you're in the top 1%, you need 50,000 XRP, 2%, 25,000 XRP, 3% is 15,000, 4% is 10,000 XRP, and top 5% of XRP holders globally is 8,370 XRP. So let's take a look how much this would be worth if XRP truly gets to prices that we think it can be. So if you are in the top 5%, 8,000 XRP, if XRP reaches $25, you'll have 200,000. $100, 800,000, $500 XRP, you'd have $4 million. And if XRP reaches $1,000, you would have $8.3 million. Not too shabby. If you're in the top 4% of holders, you'd be looking at 12,411 XRP, 300,000 for 25, 1.2 million, 100, $500 would be 6.2 million, and 1,000 would be 12 million. In the top 1%, you would have 50,000 XRP, 25 bucks is 1.25 million, $100 is $5 million, 500 would be 25 million, and 1,000 would be $50 million. If you're in the top 2 or 3%, here is what you'd be looking at. This could be life-changing money for a lot of us, and this is what we're all hoping XRP can achieve. All right, we do have some updated information. First spot XRP ETF goes live tomorrow. The Rex Osprey Spot XRP ETF is indeed set to launch on September 12th. This would be tomorrow, 2025, marking a significant milestone for the first spot XRP exchange-traded fund in the United States. Let me go ahead and give you some additional context on this. The Rex Osprey ETF will directly hold XRP tokens rather than futures contracts, establishing regulated exposure for both retail and institutional investors through traditional brokerage. The ETF is structured under the Investment Company Act of 1940, which allowed for similar approval process that enables the fund to provide spot crypto exposure with additional regulatory flexibility. This development also paves the way for other Rex Osprey ETFs tied to assets like Dogecoin, Bonk, Trump, and Bitcoin, all launching together as part of this new product lineup. Market impact: the launch of the ETF is expected to increase mainstream access to XRP as investors can now gain exposure via their exchange brokerage accounts without interacting directly with crypto exchanges. So if you have a stock account anywhere, you are soon going to be able to get access to XRP. If you haven't seen the financial institution that you have an account with, if you haven't seen them making strides or an application for an XRP spot product, pick up the phone, call your broker, say, where are these products? When will you guys have them? Only the XRP army can move these institutions to offer these products. The reason BlackRock offered a Bitcoin and Ethereum product is because the customers demanded it. And that's what we need to do today. Analysts anticipate substantial inflows into XRP, similar to impact for both Bitcoin and Ether ETFs. The ETF debut places XRP alongside Bitcoin and Ethereum, both of which already have spot ETFs trading in the United States. Also, Nate Grossi says public service announcement: DTCC listing Fidelity Sol ETF and Canary XRP and HBAR ETFs doesn't mean anything from regulatory standpoint. It's all on the SEC. It is standard practice for the DTCC to add securities to the NSCC security eligibility file in preparation for the launch of the new ETF to the market, said the spokesperson. Appearing on the list is not indicative of the outcome. If you do the research here on the DTCC and what assets they are lining up to settle in, though, XRP and HBAR are on that list. I don't think they're going to be using Bitcoin for settlement, but that's just me. Here is Paul Barron interviewing this person talking about the fourth industrial revolution to come along and grow faster than our inflation. Otherwise, we're going to enter a death spiral in the United States. What does all this mean? Let me show you.
What has happened, Paul, is we've had the corporations, the banks, the real estate, every industry in the world, and specifically here in America, has gotten used to very cheap credit.
Yeah.
And so that has created asset bubbles. Real estate, probably the largest, right? We are entering a debt spiral. And this is kind of the interesting part of the crypto space, because the new technology frontier really is what most real economists are counting on to outpace the interest growth. So in other words, interest is growing so fast that we have to have something massive like the fourth industrial revolution come along and grow even faster. Otherwise, we're going to enter a debt spiral that is not recoverable from. It's just a mathematical certainty at this point.
It's a mathematical certainty at this point. So what happens if the US enters a death spiral? The consequences would be severe. Interest costs on government debt escalate rapidly, deficits grow uncontrollably, bond investors lose confidence, and the government must borrow even more, often just to pay interest, leading to sharply rising interest rates, economic stagnation, and diminished government services. While it's difficult, there are some ways out, mainly involving difficult fiscal reforms and credible deficit reduction, but failure to act risk eventual crisis and lose of financial market confidence. We are not getting our spending out of in control. We are actually in 2025, we're spending more than we did in 2024. I know, but that is the actual facts. And I don't know, man, this is all heading to some very uncomfortableness in the US economy. Right now, we are spending over $1 trillion just to service our debt. We only take in $5 trillion a year in taxes. So 20% of what we take in is going to interest payments. This is only going to get worse. I've seen some numbers over the next 10 years. We could add another $20 trillion in debt. Eventually, this is all going to come crashing down. Major consequences: interest payments explode. Annual interest costs can consume vast portions of federal budget, crowding out spending the defense and infrastructure for social programs, right? If we want to be able to upgrade our hospitals and our freeways and all of these different services, we're not going to have the money to do that soon here unless something drastic happens. Investor confidence collapses. We're already seeing the biggest holders of US debt, which is Japan, China, and the UK. They're not interested in buying more US debt right now. This is why the US is relying so heavily on the crypto market, because stable coins often are backed up by US treasuries. Without the crypto market, the US dollar would be falling even faster right now. Currency and inflation risks to keep funding the debt. The government might resort to money printing, risking severe inflation and dollar depreciation, which means if you leave all your money in the bank and the dollar keeps getting depleted, your buying value, the value of that money is just going to lose. Over the last 5 years since 2020, 25% of the dollar's spending power, the buying power of the dollar has been lost. Imagine what 5 or 10 more years will look like. The XRP edition Gemini credit card is here and people are going crazy. They want access to this thing. Why? You're going to get 4% back on gas and EV and transport, 3% back on dining, 2% back on groceries, and 1% back on everything else. The card is designed to basically swipe and start stacking XRP. Your card will look exactly like this with your name at the bottom here. You're gonna be able to spend dollars and earn XRP by doing that. Think about what you spend the most money on. If you started to use the Gemini Edition XRP credit card, you can start saving in XRP today. 200 XRP bonus when you spend a certain amount of money in the first 3 months. Details about this will be down in the description, as well as information on the no annual fee. It's a MasterCard World Elite card, which means it works anywhere MasterCard is accepted. They also have some information on the site here. The credit card designed to grow your XRP portfolio. XRP rewards earned on the Gemini credit card and held for at least 1 year have appreciated on average 452% against traditional cards. Gemini also has a bunch of partners in the space, and by using the Gemini app, you can earn up to 10% back on some of the internet's favorite brands that they are partnered with. There's 2 different designs here. There's classic, or there's the XRP edition. And of course, if you refer friends into the Gemini XRP edition credit card, you can earn up to 5,000 back in XRP. If you want to sign up today using my link below, if you want to help the channel out, I greatly appreciate that. Get some more information, take a look at this and see how it could benefit your wallet today. See you later. Loss of Fed independence, a spiral deficit could force the Federal Reserve to politically driven money printing to enable continued debt service. Is there a way out? Deficit stabilization, the most credible solution is to cap deficits at a sustainable level like 3% of GDP. Fiscal reforms, this can only happen through political, difficult spending cuts, enlightenment reforms and tax increases, restore confidence, structure economic growth, but there's no easy solutions here. Binance teams up with $1.6 million asset manager Franklin Templeton. Make sure you're following me on X if you want some updated information. We're also making new shorts for TikTok and Instagram, unseen on YouTube. Make sure you're following those places too. I'd really appreciate it. Here is status saying Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse says that the target for RLUSD is top 5 by the end of the year. 90% of RLUSD is on Ethereum. We need to see more of this coming onto the XRP ledger. Christine Lagarde calls for European governments to rapidly establish a legislative framework for the potential introduction of a digital euro. I'm doing a complete video on this that will come out over the next few days. Look out for that if you want a complete breakdown of what's happening here.
1 year on from the release of Mario Draghi's report on the future of European competitiveness, it remains essential to follow up on its recommendations with further concrete action and to accelerate implementation, in line with the European Commission's roadmap. Governments should prioritize growth-enhancing structural reforms and strategic investment while ensuring sustainable public finance. It is critical to complete the Savings and Investment Union and the Banking Union to an ambitious timetable and to rapidly establish the legislative framework for the potential introduction of our digital euro.
We know they want control. The best way to get control is to have a digital euro. I did want to show you some information on this. The European Commission roadmap for digital IDs, digital currencies, and AI-based digital surveillance in 2025 includes concrete regulatory, technical, and infrastructure milestones, expanding both citizens' rights and government capabilities across the EU. Key developments include the rollout of EU Digital ID Wallet, the ongoing Digital Euro project, and regulatory environment for AI that attempts to balance innovation, civil rights, and security. The EU is rapidly deploying the European Digital Identity Wallet, the EU DI Wallet, aiming for wide-scale rollout and mandatory support for public and private services by 2026. The technical and legal foundation for the wallet is set to be updated in the EIDAS2 regulation, which entered force in 2024 and mandates secure, voluntarily, and privacy-protecting digital identity tools. Core features of the 2025 roadmap include secure key management, electronic signature functionalities, browser API support, and robust interface updates. The Commission targets 100% of citizens' access to digital identification and full online public services by 2030. They are moving towards this at breakneck speeds now, guys. Expect a lot of updates over the next few months. Remember, we're going to get some updates in October, whether the parliament in the EU is going to move forward with this. I believe that they are going to be forced to, and this means a CBDC is coming to Europe. Now, what will that be built on top of? That is still up for speculation. We do know that the Bank of France really likes the XRP ledger. Is the XRP ledger going to play a role in this? We just don't know. Will it be a private ledger, Ripple, something to do with Ripple? We have no idea, but we can definitely speculate on that. I will try to include some of this research down below if you want to jump into it even further. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day. I appreciate you. Aloha.